You can start with purees if that makes you feel comfortable because you need to feed your baby. Esme, she was like ready before I was. She was like nose diving on my food and I was like, okay, here, you can try some. Hey guys, my name is Shayla. Welcome to my channel. If this is your first time here, I talk about motherhood, I talk about pregnancy. We do things pretty natural, pretty granola. If you're into that, please subscribe. I have a 2.5-year-old and a 8-month-old. If this is not your first time here, welcome back. I am doing a little series of this versus that, or like 1 versus 2. I'm doing some on cloth diapering, some on elimination communication, baby led weaning, the sleep, all the things that were different for my second than my first, because I remember when I was pregnant, I'm like, how do you do 2? How? So I just want to give, if you are pregnant with your second, you a little bit of hope. It's okay. And it's actually a lot less stress because you don't have the capacity to stress about every minute detail ever. So, oh, that tastes terrible. I am not an expert in baby led weaning, but I interview the experts on my podcast, Hey Shayla. I'm also on Instagram, Hey Shayla. I also sell these shirts. This one says mama, a little black on black mama. If you want to get one, it's heyshayla.com/shop. Let's get started. Baby led weaning. I just rewatched my video about baby led weaning with my first. I was the person that was like, I'm gonna do baby led weaning. This is gonna be perfect. My baby's gonna just eat what I eat, and that's just so much easier than purees. And then I had to like hand her something for the first, like a banana. She took this giant bite. Okay, never mind. They're not gonna do that. I thought that she was gonna have some peanut butter, and then like her throat was gonna close, and we had literally 2 seconds to get her to the emergency room. Do I need to put her in a car seat before I go to the emergency room? Do I just wait for the ambulance to get there? What's gonna be faster? What's gonna be safer? What am I supposed to do? There was so much anxiety in that Shayla. She was so anxious and so high strung and so needed to do all the research to feed her baby. And that's not all first time moms, but that was for sure me. And it wasn't only just stress about baby led weaning, it was stress that my baby was going to choke on anything that I gave her. If you want a lot of tips about like choking or like tips for feeding your baby, go watch that video, because that Shayla had done all the research and was ready to share with you all the information about allergies and like when to introduce the allergies, what things to look for to feed them. All the things are in that video. I work closely with My Little Eater, so if you're looking for like extra professional information, she has a couple courses that are so helpful. Like they're just, go check her out. That's also heyshayla.com/mylittleeater. I have a lot of links, I guess, but I just want to make it as easy as possible for you to get to these things if you want to. With my first, we were just so panicked all the time that she was going to choke on everything. Our neighbor was our nurse, our pediatric nurse, and so she's like, I can come over sometime, I can watch her eat. So she came over and she did not make us feel better. She was like, oh, it kind of looks like she's inhaling it, not eating it. And I was like, not helpful. Aaliyah one time gagged on a JoJo, like one of those potatoes, and Seth immediately popped her out and did the baby Heimlich on her. So we were just 2 wrecks trying to feed a baby and trying to like do the right thing. She ate hummus one time and her face got all red, and I'm like sweating thinking that she's having an allergic reaction and going to anaphylactic shock. So I like rush her to the doctor, and by the time we get there, there's no rash. And the doctor's like, but you should be feeding her like 2 to 3 meals a day. And I just immediately started sweating. And she was probably like, for sure after 6 months, between like 6 and 9 months. And she's like, you need to start feeding her. And I was like, why though? Like, I think she's getting enough breast milk and stuff. And when I interviewed My Little Eater on my podcast, she said they need to go through a little phase where they like kind of do gag on it and they kind of figure that out to know their limit. So you have to go through that to figure it out. But I like her because she's like, I don't care if you start with purees or if you start with solids. Like, you can start with purees if that makes you feel comfortable because you need to feed your baby. Esme, she was like ready before I was. She was like nose diving on my food and I was like, okay, here, you can try some. In that video, I said that I had her on a schedule. Oh, when she wakes up from her naps, then I do a snack. And I'm like, good for you, Shayla, 2 years ago. Shayla now is like, Ezzy, I don't know, I'm snacking on something. Do you want to try it? Here, boom, boom, and like try and feed it to her. I also had a list of 100 foods that Aaliyah had, and then I was trying to get 100 before 1. I still might do that because I do feel like that helps them with different flavors and textures, and like balsamic vinegar counts as one. So it doesn't have to be like a food, but just like flavors and stuff. Flavors, textures. One thing that helped alleviate my stress a lot was realizing that they didn't need to consume the food. A lot of this is just like practice moving it around in their mouth, tasting different flavors, tasting different textures. If they spit it out, fine. If they only eat a tiny bit, fine. Like, they're getting breast milk or formula, so they're good. So it's just practice. And that was like made me stress out less, because sometimes she wouldn't really do much with what was on her plate, and I was like, you're not eating. This is not good. And then the allergies really freaked me out with Aaliyah, because I assumed that if she had an allergic reaction, it would be straight anaphylactic shock. And I don't think that's as common as I thought. I think they kind of like show signs of an allergy, and someone said only give them high allergy foods on weekdays so you can bring them to the doctor instead of the emergency room. Not a bad strategy. But they have little symptoms before they go into like full anaphylactic, I guess, like multiple times of eating it. With my second, she gets to watch her sister eat. With my first, Aaliyah, I'm like eating and then I'm like, chew, chew, chew. And I'm doing baby sign language, which highly recommend. 3 words, that's it. That's all you. Are you eating? Are you eating? Good job. Oh, do you want more? Are you all done? Those are the only things I did, and it helped so much, because as she got older, she would be like, we're in the living room, and she'd be like, I'm like, oh, you're hungry. Or like anything, do you want more of this? Are you all done? No, all done. Okay, cool. I mean, mine is like 8 months. She's not doing it, but I just have to keep practicing those things so that by the time she can function and like learn and associate, she knows what they mean. I feel like she gets to see it more instead of just mom, because they're like, you shouldn't just feed your baby, you should eat with your baby. So it's like, okay, this is mealtime. You're eating, I'm eating, we're eating together. That's why baby led weaning is so easy, because you can be like, okay, you can have some of this, some of this, some of this. One thing that I realized, soup, it's like marinating in liquid for however long it's been. Like, it's all soft. The chicken's soft, the veggies are soft, the noodles are soft. I just like sprinkle soup ingredients after I warm it up and cook it in whatever on her tray. Make sure that they're all squishable. Like, I always do the finger squish. My little eater says that their molars and everything are right underneath the gum line. So they can't like tear the food, but they can mash it. So as long as I can mash it with my fingers, I feel good about it, because then it just turns puree, right? So like chicken noodle soup, it's got little cubes of chicken. I just crush them so she doesn't have a cube of chicken, and make sure that that's easy for her to do. She picks up peas, she picks up the noodles, she picks up the carrots, whatever's in there, and it's all soft, and I feel really good about it. And it's so easy to make. And she gets like chicken, like I said, noodles. Mine has beans in it. Like, I feel like that's a baby feeding hack, is to feed them the soup ingredients. And if you get bone broth soup, now you're just giving them more good protein instead of just liquid. I feel like with Aaliyah, I gave her more opportunity to use the spoons, and I would recommend getting the utensils. I just bought those this time for my second. I didn't buy them for my first, but you can kind of just like dunk it in and then just like let them eat off of it. I think it's easier for them, or she uses a teether sometimes. But Aaliyah was actually really good with a spoon pretty early on, because I had let her use it, and I would like load one up and then hand it to her, and then I'd have a second spoon. So as she was doing that, I'd load another one up and set it there, and then just wait, and then she'd eventually see the second one and then put that in her mouth, and then I would take this one from her and load it up and set it there. And so she always had like a spoon to try and feed herself. I'm like throwing it in her mouth. I treat her like a 5th child, I think, but like I'm grabbing like oatmeal in balls and like putting, because I'll make a big batch of oatmeal and then I'll just put it in the fridge, and then I have like this cold mushy oatmeal that I set on her tray, and she eats it with her hands. And Aaliyah started daycare when she was 2 years old, and one of the things that they told us to work on was like having her eat with utensils. So even though it started well at 6 months with utensils, by the time she was 2 or 2.5, they were like, does she use forks at home? And I'm like, of course she does. And then we finally got like a legit high chair for Esme. Aaliyah got a hand-me-down, and then I bought a cheap one off Marketplace. They both worked fine. They held her when she needed to eat. I just got the Stoke Trip Trap or Kikaroo. I got Kikaroo. To me, they're the same. Their design is slightly different, but I love it. It like keeps her in place. It's a huge tray. It pops off. It has a footrest. My little eater wrote a blog post for my blog, and she said that the things that you want to look for, having some place for their foot was a big one. And so, as he can't reach yet, but I'm excited that it's there, and then she can grow into it. So now I'm looking for one for Aaliyah on Marketplace too, because then they can have the same chair and they just like grow into it. It's really cool. Basically, for me, the biggest difference between baby led weaning with my first versus my second is the anxiety. So little anxiety. Today I gave Ezzy a piece of toast, a buttered toast. She was literally chipmunking like this. You have so much in your mouth. With Aaliyah, I feel like Aaliyah didn't really do that. Ezzy was chewing and chewing and chewing and chewing, and she was chewing for a long time. And I was like, are you good? Are you good? Are you good? And she's just chilling. She gagged a couple times, but like was fine, and then ended up eating it all. And I was just like, there's no way I would have let Aaliyah do that. No way. The other thing that is the same is that I feed them naked. like they're in their diaper, because I try and put seasonings in there. I put turmeric in there and like cinnamon and different spices just to like spice it up a little bit, and it stains their clothes. So I'm like, I'm not dealing with that. We're just going to strip you down to your diaper, set you in your high chair, and then I'm gonna wipe everything off when you're done. With Aaliyah, I would just throw her in the sink afterwards. I don't do that here, I don't know why. So Ezzy's probably not eating as much as Aaliyah did, because with Aaliyah apparently I had a schedule, but she gets to see Aaliyah eat, she gets to see me eat, she is always on me, so she gets to like see the process of making things. It makes it so much easier. This is a series where I will be talking about like the difference of 1 and 2 of my first versus my second. HEYSHAYLA.com/1v2. So if you have any other things that you want me to talk about the first versus the second, let me know and I will do that. Thank you so much for watching, and I will talk to you next time. Bye.